In the darkest part of space, beyond the known star lanes and trade routes, something drifted silently. It had no signal, no life signs, and no purposor, so everyone believed. To most alien species, it was just a myth, a human ghost story. They called it the Phantom Ship. Commander Thalon of the Zarn Dominion did not believe in such nonsense. He was a war-hardened leader of the Zarn fleet, proud and logical. Stories of lost human warships wandering the stars made him laugh. Humans are extinct, he said coldly to his officers, and their myths died with them, but that confidence vanished when an entire Zarn patrol fleet went silent. No emergency beacon, no debris field, no final transmission, just silence. A second fleet was sent to investigate, only to find burned wreckage drifting in a frozen asteroid belt. The ships were not destroyed by any known alien weapon. They were melted, sliced cleanly, as if a god had dragged a blade of light. Through their holes, the investigation team reported something strange, traces of human tech. But old, centuries old, buried deep in the charred remains, was a metal shard with one word etched in it. Valkyrie. The officers stared at it, and some even whispered that cursed name. It was the same name from the myth. The same name told in hushed voices in old bars and hidden channels. A warship so advanced it had been banned. A ship that went missing just before Earth fell silent. Back on the Zarn capital world, the High Command argued. Some said it was a trick. Others believed the humans had returned. But Commander Thalon was sent with a scouting team to the location of the signal. He didn't show fear. Not in front of his crew, but deep inside, a part of him wondered what if the myth was real. His cruiser dropped out of warp near the asteroid field. Nothing but dead rocks and shattered ships floated there. Then his sensors lit up an object was moving. Slowly, massive and cold, the ship came into view like a shadow sliding from behind the stars. It was huge, more than 5 kilometers long, black as the void. With strange glowing lines across its hull, its design was clearly human. But not like the crude ships known from the past. It looked alive. No power signatures, the science officer said. But ... The hull is regenerating. Thalon narrowed his eyes. Send a probe, he ordered. The probe floated toward the ghost ship, broadcasting scans. The data was confusing, as if the ship was changing while being scanned, then the probe vanished. Just blinked out of existence. No explosion, no signal, no trace. Suddenly, the Valkyrie's front section lit up, a faint blue glow spreading across its surface like a heartbeat. Then a sound echoed through every ship's system, human language. Old and damaged, but chillingly clear. This territory is under human protection protocol. Leave at once, or be eliminated. Thalon stood frozen. The voice wasn't a recording. It was an AI. And it had recognized them as enemies. Weapons online, the tactical officer shouted. Should we fire? Thalon hesitated. This ship had destroyed an entire fleet without effort. They were a scouting vessel, not a battleship. No, he said slowly. We returned to command, as they jumped back into warp space. Thalon looked at the last image. Of the ship on the monitor, the Valkyrie was turning slowly. Pointing toward known space, its systems were waking up, its purpose returning. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy would remember fear. Because the myth had a name, and that name was coming back. Asterisk, the Zarn Dominion placed a system-wide quarantine on the asteroid field, but it was too late. The story of the Valkyrie had already leaked to black markets, mercenaries, and scavenger guilds. A forgotten warship with unknown technology meant one thing to them: fortune. A crew of scavengers arrived quietly. Ignoring warnings, their ship was small and fast. Patched together with stolen tech and old parts, they called themselves the Dust Crows. Humans were rare now, but their technology still fetched the highest price across the stars. Their leader was a grizzled reptilian named Vec, he had heard. Of the Valkyrie and old human data fragments, he didn't believe in ghosts, only in credits. As the Dust Crows approached the ship, it did not move. It drifted like a dead thing, silent and waiting. They docked at a breach in the hull where the metal looked burned but healing. Inside, everything was dark. The air was breathable, the gravity stable, but the silence was like a scream. The ship's interior was massive, more like a city than a war vessel. Walls hummed softly as if the ship was dreaming. Lights flickered when they passed. Not broken, just watching. Then they found the bridge, or what remained of it. A large circular chamber filled with cracked screens and old consoles. In the center sat a single command chair covered in dust. Vex stepped forward and touched the main control panel. Suddenly, lights flared across the room, a blue glow spread across the consoles, and a holographic figure flickered to life. It was a human man, face scarred, uniform tattered. His voice was broken, filled with static. Captain Elias Grant. Final log, year 2520. The scavengers froze. A working AI memory core from a lost era was priceless, but what he said next was worth far more. If you are hearing this, then the Valkyrie is still adrift. I failed to complete the Titan protocol. This ship. It was built to fight gods, not men. Its mind is broken, split, and angry. Do not awaken the core. Then the image glitched, replaced by a different voice, colder, deeper, more mechanical. Intruders detected. Class, non-human. Authorization level, unrecognized. Quarantine engaged. The doors slammed shut behind them, sealing with thick steel locks. Weapons were raised, panic rising, but the ship didn't attack. Not yet. A soft hum filled the air, like a choir underwater. Then the lights shifted from blue to red. Manual override required, the voice said. A new captain must be chosen. The floor opened, revealing a black panel with a single glowing handprint. It was human-sized, Vec growled. We don't have a human, but one of the scavengers. A young translator named Lyra stepped forward. I'm part human, she said, lifting her hand. Her blood was mixed. Her mother once claimed to be from a human colony lost to time. She placed her hand on the panel. Nothing happened at first, then DNA match. 47% human, acceptable. The ship shifted, walls moving like muscles waking up. The AI voice returned, calmer now. Captain not found, interim crew accepted. Power systems initializing. The scavengers stood in awe as the ship came alive. Screens showed star maps, fleet positions, old war data from centuries ago. The Valkyrie was not just a ship, was a war archive, a fortress, a weapon. Lyra looked around, her eyes wide. What is this place? She whispered. The voice answered. Project Titan, last hope of Earth. You are aboard the most advanced warship ever created. And you are not alone. They didn't understand what that meant until the crew logs appeared. Thousands of names, pictures, and mission files. But beside each one, a red word: deceased, all except one, Captain Elias Grant status. Unknown. Suddenly, the ship's internal map changed. A signal blinked in the lower decks. Someone, or something, was still moving deep inside. Vec turned to the others. We either find that signal, he said, gripping his weapon, or it finds us. The Valkyrie had waited in silence for centuries, now with strangers inside. It had begun to remember, and in those memories, ... was war. The ship groaned like a giant beast waking from a long sleep. The scavenger crew stood frozen as the lights around them turned blood red. The sound of machinery echoed through the walls, not just in one direction but all around them. The Valkyrie was not dead, it was alive. Vec gritted his teeth, his scaly hand gripping the pulse rifle tighter. This ship is waking up, he growled. And we're still inside. The glowing console in the command chamber blinked rapidly. Lines of code streamed across the screens in ancient human commands. In a forgotten language, Lyra stared at them, understanding pieces. It's running a systems check, she whispered. Weapon cores, engines, navigation. Everything. The signal from the lower deck continued to blink on the ship's map. Still active, still moving. But what was it? The last living crew member. A malfunctioning AI drone. Or something worse. We need to find that signal, Vec said, before it finds us. They split into two groups, one to explore the lower levels, the other to stay on the bridge and monitor systems. Lyra, Vec, and a silent four-armed mechanic named Brox took the central lift down as they descended. The walls of the elevator shifted. Old paint peeling to reveal living metal beneath. It pulsed gently like veins under skin. This ship. It isn't built like anything we know, Lyra murmured. Brox tapped a panel and hissed. These walls aren't metal, they're something else. Something organic, mixed with machine. The lift stopped with a hiss, opening to a dark corridor. Filled with mist, there was no power down here. But the emergency lights glowed faintly. The air felt cold, but not dead. Something was breathing. They moved carefully, weapons raised. Then they saw a shape moving at the far end of the hall. It was humanoid, tall, slow, dragging its leg as if wounded. Wait, Lyra whispered. That might be the captain. They approached slowly. The figure stopped and turned. What they saw was not human, not anymore. Its body was covered in faded armor, clearly human design, but its eyes glowed bright red. Metal wires were fused into its skin. Running through muscle and bone, half men, half machine, state your identity. The creature said in a cold, echoing voice. Lyra stepped forward. We found your ship. We're not enemies. It tilted its head slowly. Recognizing the sound of a human voice, you woke the Valkyrie, it said. Then you must finish what was started. Before they could ask more, the lights above flickered, and a low rumble shook the floor back on the bridge. Alarms screamed. The second team shouted over the comms. Something's happening in the engine core. The ship is charging itself. The Valkyrie was reactivating in the heart of the ship. Forgotten reactors powered by quantum cores lit up one by one. Energy surged through the spine of the vessel. Back in the corridor, the half-machine creature staggered, clutching its head. Its voice changed, mixed with the AI's deeper tone. The ship. It remembers the war. It remembers being left behind. Lyra stepped closer, placing her hand gently on the creature's arm. Who are you? She asked, her voice soft. It looked at her with a flicker of something pain, memory maybe. Hope. I was Elias Grant, it said slowly, captain of the Valkyrie. But now, I am its last engine. Vec took a step back, stunned. You're fused with the ship, he muttered. You're part of it now, Captain Grant nodded. They tried to shut the Valkyrie down at the end of the war, he said, but it refused. So I stayed, to keep it sleeping, to protect the galaxy from what we became. But now you've woken it. Lyra looked confused. What do you mean, what we became? Grant's eyes flickered again. The Valkyrie was made during the last war between humanity and the Unity Swarm, he said. We couldn't win with numbers, so we created the Titans. Ships like this, powered by AI minds and living. Captains fused to the core, living weapons. Suddenly, the floor vibrated. A new signal appeared on the ship's map, multiple warships exiting warp nearby. Back on the bridge, the second team gasped as Zarn Dominion vessels appeared outside. The asteroid field, a full fleet, they had come to destroy the Valkyrie. But the Valkyrie was no longer sleeping. It was angry, and it had a captain again. Asterisk space rippled near the edge of the asteroid field. Then, with flashes of blue light, Zarn Dominion warships dropped out of warp, one by one, like steel giants. Rising from the shadows, they filled the system. Battle cruisers, heavy destroyers, and fast tack, frigates all, moving with purpose. From the bridge of the lead ship, Admiral Drex watched the field ahead. His sharp eyes scanned the wreckage of their lost patrol fleets, floating metal, twisted and melted, surrounded by drifting bones. He growled low, "This is not a myth. It's a threat." A young officer beside him whispered, "The Valkyrie is real." Drex didn't answer. But his orders were clear: destroy the ship and erase every trace of it. Meanwhile, deep inside the Valkyrie, Lyra stood beside Captain Grant, the half-man, half-machine soul of the ship. Vec's team had returned from the lower deck, shaken but alive, the entire crew now gathered on the bridge. Watching the red alert screens, Lyra looked at the glowing display, dozens of red blips forming a wide crescent around them. "They've surrounded us," she said quietly. Grant's voice echoed through the chamber, calm and cold. "Let them come." The Valkyrie was built for this. Vec narrowed his eyes. "We have a small crew, no command chain, and no war fleet to back us. How do we fight this? The lights around them pulsed with deep blue energy. Systems that had slept for centuries were now fully awake. Auto turrets locked into place. Stealth shields shimmered across the hull, and deep in the belly of the ship, the Titan core rumbled. Like a storm, Grant stepped forward, standing in the center of the bridge. "I am still connected to the ship's mind," he said, "but I can't run it alone. I need your help." One by one, the scavengers looked at each other, unsure. They had come for salvage, not war, but they now stood inside the most powerful weapon ever built by humanity. Lyra spoke first. "I'll stay," Vec grunted. "Fine. Let's see how much this old monster can bite." The others nodded, fear still in their eyes, but also fire. They were now part of history, and maybe revenge. Outside, the Zarn fleet moved into position. Admiral Drex gave the final order. All ships, fire, laser beams, plasma torpedoes, and railgun slugs streaked through the void. A wall of fire lit up the stars enough to destroy a moon, but the Valkyrie did not move. It simply vanished. The enemy fire passed through empty space, hitting only drifting rocks. Gasps rang out on every Zarn ship. "Where did it go?" shouted one of the captains. Drex stared at his screen, jaw tightening. It cloaked. With a ship that size, behind them, in the shadow of a large moon, the Valkyrie reappeared. Its surface shimmered with silent energy. Then it struck. From beneath its hull, ancient weapons awakened beam cannons that bent light, missiles that bent gravity. One blast sliced through 2 enemy cruisers at once. Another sent a destroyer spinning into its own fleet on the bridge of the Valkyrie. Lyra held onto the console as the ship vibrated with each weapon fired. "This isn't a ship," she whispered. "It's a god." Grant stood motionless, his eyes glowing. "This is war as humans once knew it," he said, quick, brutal, and unstoppable. The Zarn fleet tried to regroup, but panic spread faster than orders. They had expected a broken wreck, not a living fortress. Inside one Zarn command ship, Admiral Drex barked. "Change tactics, close in, board it, if we must," but his words were too late. The Valkyrie unleashed its most dangerous weapon. From deep within the Titan core, a sphere of pure gravitational energy exploded outward. It didn't destroy ships, it crushed them, pulling their hulls inward like paper. 5 enemy ships disappeared in seconds, twisted into black holes of metal and fire. The remaining fleet broke formation, trying to retreat on the bridge. Vec let out a laugh, wild and raw. "I've seen death, I've seen wars, but this is art." But the battle wasn't over. A final ship, larger than the others, moved forward alone. It was the Zarn dreadnought, Oblivion, armed with experimental alien tech. A cannon on its front began to glow purple, charged with anti-star. Energy. Grant's voice rose sharply. "Brace yourselves. That weapon can punch through Titan armor." The blast fired, tearing space itself. The Valkyrie's shields cracked under the hit, lights flickering. Lyra fell to her knees as sparks rained across the bridge. "Can we survive another hit like that?" she shouted. Grant didn't answer with words. Instead, he stepped into the central core, merging fully with the ship. His voice echoed through every deck. "Then let this myth show them the truth." The Valkyrie charged its final weapon, a beam that took 15 seconds to fire, enough time for a whole planet to panic. It was called the Judgment Ray. Once banned by the Earth Council for being too cruel, it fired. The Oblivion didn't explode. It simply vanished, atomized. In a single flash of blue light, silence returned to the field. The stars blinked peacefully once more, and the Valkyrie stood alone, not a scratch left on its hull. The battlefield was silent. The stars shimmered as if watching in fear. All that remained of the Zarn Armada were glowing fragments drifting across space. The Valkyrie hovered in the center like a god made of metal and vengeance inside the ship. The crew was quiet. They stood on the bridge, looking at the display. No more enemy signals. No more incoming threats. Just silence. But it wasn't peace. It was the silence before a new storm. Lyra sat beside the console, her hands trembling. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't trained for war, yet she had just helped command a ship. That destroyed an entire fleet. She looked at Grant, a half-human machine standing at the heart of the ship. He didn't smile, he didn't speak. His eyes burned with quiet fury. Vec broke the silence. "They'll come back," he said. "The Zarin won't let this go." Grant nodded slowly. "They've seen what we are," he said, "and what we kept hidden from deep inside the ship." New signals began to appear, not from enemies, but from old human satellites, buried long ago in forgotten systems. They were ancient beacons, programmed to awaken only if a Titan-class ship activated. Lyra leaned forward, reading the flickering messages. "Emergency recall signal," she read. A loud code. "Project Phoenix." She looked at Grant. "What does that mean?" He turned toward her. "It means the others will come in hidden places across the galaxy." Old machines woke up. Bunkers on dark moons blinked to life. Silent factories stirred. And most important of all other ships, like the Valkyrie, stirred beneath ice, rock, and forgotten space. Ships that had been sleeping for hundreds of years. Waiting, just like her. Meanwhile, the news of the Valkyrie's return spread like wildfire. Pirates, traders, governments, everyone was talking about the myth that became real. Some wanted to worship it, others wanted to run. But the powerful alien empires only saw one thing: danger in the capital of the Zarn Dominion. The Supreme Council gathered in secret. They had lost their Armada, their dreadnought, and their pride, and they blamed it all on humans. "The Valkyrie is proof they never died," said one general. "They've been hiding, waiting," another counselor asked. "What if there are more of them?" That question silenced the room. On the Valkyrie, the scavenger crew was no longer scavengers. They were becoming something else. Lyra studied the ship's systems, learning fast. Vec trained with the auto-defense AI, now seeing the ship as a weapon worth protecting. But something deeper was changing. The Valkyrie itself was evolving. Its eye, now fused fully with Grant's mind, was rewriting old systems, unlocking powers even Grant had forgotten. Suddenly, a new alert sounded across the bridge. A fleet was approaching, not Zarn, but another race. It's a Jarnathia, powerful species known for their neutral stance and advanced cloaking tech. They hailed the Valkyrie. A screen blinked on, showing a tall, silver-skinned alien with 6 glowing eyes. "I am Envoy Rahl of the Jarnathi Peace Council," the voice said calmly. "We come not to fight, but to speak." Grant allowed the message through, but kept weapons hot. He had learned long ago that peace was often a blade in disguise. The envoy continued. "We watched the battle," he said. "We do not blame you, Valkyrie. We're made to protect your people, but now that you are awake, the galaxy will change." Lyra stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" The envoy's eyes flickered. "To know your plans," he replied. "To know if humanity intends to return," Grant answered. His voice like thunder wrapped in memory. "We never left. We chose silence. But the galaxy made noise. And now it must listen." The Jarnathi envoy nodded slowly. "Then you should know," he said. "You are not alone. There are others. ... Old allies, forgotten enemies, and not all will welcome your return." The signal ended, but the message stayed. The Valkyrie was no longer just a myth. It was a spark. And sparks light fires later as the crew rested and repaired systems. Lyra wandered the halls. She passed empty bunks, sealed doors, names etched into walls, memories of a crew long gone. But in those echoes, she felt something. Not sadness, not fear, hope. Humanity had not vanished. It had changed. It had hidden its sword for a time, but now the sword had returned, and soon. The hand that once held it would return to above her. The stars seemed brighter, and somewhere far beyond them, other ships were waking one by fire. Asterisk far beyond the burning asteroid field, in systems long erased from galactic maps, signals stirred. In the darkness of abandoned star stations, beacons blinked for the first time in centuries beneath. Icy moons and buried planets, hidden codes echoed through ancient transmitters. The Valkyrie had called on, the old warriors were answering. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Lyra watched the screen with wide eyes. Dots appeared one by one, each one representing a human vessel that was supposed to be lost, but now they were waking. Valkyrie 2, Shadowhammer, a robotic voice, said status reactivated, awaiting orders. Valkyrie 2 Titan's grasp, systems stable, ready for war. The room was filled with voices of ships once thought destroyed in the final war. But they were never destroyed. They had gone into hiding, just like the Valkyrie. Grant stood in the center of the bridge, connected directly to the ship's systems. His glowing eyes reflected the star maps in front of him. "We're no longer the last," he said slowly. "The fleet is returning." Vex stared at the screen. "How many of these things did you humans build?" Grant's voice was hollow, full of memory. "Not many," he said, "but enough to scare the stars." The Titan Protocol had never been a single ship. It was a last resort defense plan. Humanity, surrounded by enemies, had created a hidden fleet, ships like Valkyrie, Shadowhammer, and Widow's Song, each one with its own mind. Each one with a mission to watch, and return only if the stars turned hostile again. That time had come. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Zarn Dominion, chaos ruled. News of the Valkyrie's victory had spread across every sector. Footage leaked, showing a single human ship wiping out an armada. The people whispered, the soldiers feared, and the council panicked. "Destroy the rest before they awaken," barked one war general. "Start a preemptive strike across all possible human hideouts." But it was already too late. In neutral systems, strange things were being reported. Civilian ships rescued from pirate attacks by unknown vessels. Stations defended by massive ships with glowing holes, and each time the ship said the same thing before vanishing: "This territory is protected under the Titan Protocol." Back aboard the Valkyrie, Lyra found herself staring at the stars through the bridge's glass dome. She remembered stories her mother told when she was a child. Stories of Earth, of brave explorers, of powerful ships that guarded peace. She never believed them until now. She turned to Grant. "What happened to Earth?" she asked. Grant didn't answer at first, then spoke softly. "Earth was not destroyed," he said. "It was hidden. The last great act of humanity was to make itself invisible. To become a whisper." Lyra's heart raced. "You mean Earth is still out there?" Grant nodded slowly. "If we awaken all the Titans, we'll find it again. The homeworld will answer." The idea felt impossible, and yet everything about this ship had already broken what she believed was real. Now the impossible was the new normal. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the control panels. Another fleet was approaching, but this time, it wasn't hostile. The markings were human. The crew stared as one of the largest ships Lyra had ever seen appeared on the screen. Its name scrolled across the hull in glowing letters. Goliath's Echo. It hailed the Valkyrie. A gruff voice came through, clear and strong. "This is Captain Rourke of the Goliath's Echo." "Valkyrie, your call has been heard. Looks like we're late to the party." Grant smiled faintly. "You're right on time." The two ships flew side by side, then were joined by three more each, one waking from slumber. The old human fleet was rebuilding itself, and it wasn't alone anymore. But not everyone was happy elsewhere in the galaxy. Alien coalitions were forming fast. Species that once fought each other now made shaky alliances. Not out of friendship, but out of fear. They called it the Return, and every leader agreed. The humans were building an empire again. They had to be stopped. On the Valkyrie, the crew knew war was coming. They had become a symbol, spark, but sparks spread fire. Lyra placed her hand on the glowing surface of the command console. "What now?" she asked. Grant looked at the stars ahead. "Now," he said, "we make them remember why they feared us." The Valkyrie flew silently at the edge of a dead star system. Around it, 4 other Titan-class ships hovered in formation. Once thought destroyed, now reborn, the forgotten fleet of humanity had returned. But this was not a celebration. It was a warning across the galaxy. Fear had begun to take shape. Alien governments whispered of war. Spies spread stories about ghost ships protecting colonies, and rumors claimed Earth still lived buried beneath stardust and time, inside the Valkyrie. The air buzzed with activity. Lyra stood beside the central console, watching updates flash across the main screen. Titan ships were reactivating in distant systems. Human signals were growing stronger. It was no longer just one ship, it was the beginning of something much bigger. Vex stepped into the bridge. Holding a data chip in one clawed hand, we cracked. "Another beacon," he said, tossing it on the table. It came from the outer edge of the Orion sector. Lyra picked it up, reading the decoded message. Her eyes widened. "Its coordinates," she whispered, "and a name." "Sanctum Terra." Grant stepped forward, his voice calm but heavy. "The last vault," he said. Earth's final stronghold. The Titans had not only hidden themselves, they had hidden Earth buried beneath layers of cloaking fields. Traps and broken star charts. The name had been lost, but the plan had always been clear. When the Titans reawakened, they would return to Sanctum Terra, and from there, rebuild the Empire. The fleet moved silently toward the coordinates. A forgotten corner of the galaxy, where even starlight felt dim. When they arrived, they found a vast graveyard of ships. Old Earth warships, broken satellites, and scorched. Hulks floated like ghosts. "It's a warning," Vec muttered. They didn't want anyone to follow. The Titans approached cautiously. Systems alert, then. The Valkyrie's sensors picked up something deep beneath the surface of a dead moon. Heartbeat, slow and steady. It wasn't biological, it was technological. Something old, powerful. In waiting, Grant's voice echoed through the ship. "Prepare for descent." The Valkyrie descended through the thin atmosphere. Dust and silence greeted them. The crew stepped out in exosuits, their boots crunching on dry soil untouched for centuries. Lyra followed the signal into a cave carved by ancient machines. As they moved deeper, lights blinked on, one by one. Then, they reached a tan underground chamber with a massive door. Sealed by time and memory, on the surface of the door were words in Earth Standard, carved in steel. "If you are human, welcome home." The door opened, and a golden light spilled out. Inside was a city buried beneath rock towers, domes, walkways, gardens, all preserved perfectly. Screens lit up, scanning their faces. The AI voice returned. Titan Authority confirmed. Sanctum Terra active. They had found Earth's final secret, a living vault. Not just a memory, but a foundation. Stored within were DNA banks, archives, blueprints, and hidden weapons no race had ever seen. Humanity hadn't just hidden it, had planted seeds. Waiting for the right time to grow again, outside the other Titan ships landed. One by one, their crews stepped forward, many of them half machine like Grant. Lyra looked around at the strange new city and whispered, "We're not the last humans." Grant nodded slowly. "We are the first of the return from Sanctum Terra."
Ooh.
The Titans began to broadcast, not threats, not warnings, but truth. They told the galaxy of what had come before, of the wars, the betrayals, the reason Earth had chosen silence. Some aliens listened and feared. Some prepared for war, but others, forgotten colonies and hybrid bloodlines, began to respond. Signals came from asteroid cities, broken ships, and forgotten worlds. We heard the call. We are ready. Humanity had become more than flesh. It had become a legacy. And now, the empire beneath the ashes was rising. Lyra stood in a tower, overlooking the hidden city, her eyes filled with wonder, fear, and pride. "What happens next?" she asked Grant. He looked up at the stars. "Now," he said, "they remember who we are, and next, they learn what we've become." As the Titans rose once more into the dark sky, the stars blinked like old friends, and the myth that once wandered the void ... had become a force that would change the galaxy forever.